So now I want to talk to you a little bit about the national trends in the field of special education. Um, as I've talked a little bit about the history of where we were and now where we are and where we're heading, one of the things that is really coming out at the forefront is multi-tiered systems of supports, really identifying the needs of all students and providing the necessary services to make sure that we meet their needs. Many of you may be familiar with what's known as response to instruction and intervention, RTI. It has many ways of being laid out. But basically the premise is, we're providing supports to students using data to monitor their progress and then make decisions on that data. But we're not just focusing on academics, we're also focusing on behavior and ensuring that we also provide kids with the level of supports they need in that area as well so they can be successful. And again, it's not just about special ed kids, it's about taking this framework and applying it across the board to all students and for all schools and all environments. I know in my particular school district there's a big push toward this, and we're actively involved in kind of enlarging this process and rolling it out, and it's something that's really prevalent throughout the entire country. One of the other things that is a national trend is really focusing on this idea of overrepresentation. Unfortunately, we over-identify our students that are English language learners in special education. What we find is in certain school districts, like mine, for example, in Los Angeles Unified, we are, repeatedly over-identifying the number of students that are in special ed that may really have a second language acquisition problem, or there may still be learning English. And so we have some schools on certain sides of town where the number of youth that are minority and coming from English language learner backgrounds are small, yet we see that they are all ending up in special education. And the question really is that really what is happening, or is it that they are still acquiring sufficient language in order to access the curriculum? One of the other things that it continues to be a difficulty, and it has been for some time, is the over-identification of students that are African American, particularly males, in special education, particularly under the eligibility of emotional disturbance. And that's something that we've been dealing with for some time now. And they're not only overrepresented in terms of eligibility, but also in the more restrictive programs. So we tend to place those students in special day classrooms or in non-public school classrooms. And so the big question now is, what is the reason for that? What is it exactly that is causing that to happen? And really we're starting to think about and develop more effective practices to help address that overrepresentation. So is there maybe some other programs that we need to look at? Is there maybe some strategies, some training, things that we need to do to better help our English language learners to better access the curriculum? Do we need to better train our teachers to be able to help support that English language development? And also in terms of the African American students, is what are the things that we have in place systematically that are causing this overrepresentation? Perhaps there's some cultural issues that we need to address. Perhaps there's some general behavior, strategy, management kind of things that we need to do in the classroom environment, because it seems like that's a factor that is driving this increase. So we're really addressing those problems and identifying them, and one of the trends is really to look deeply into what's happening and implement policies to make sure that there is a reduction in those areas. And lastly, we're looking at costs. Unfortunately, the population of fortunately, I guess, the population of students with learning issues and special education is decreasing. Unfortunately, the costs associated with educating them is skyrocketing. Every year we're spending more and more, and the special education budget is encroaching into the general education budget, and staffing levels are higher than ever, yet we have less and less students with special needs in our school programs. So the question is, why is there that increase, and are we really getting our money's worth, and is really investing in staff, which ends up being the primary place where the funding goes, really the best investment, or should we be investing in other ways of supporting students? And so that's a continual discussion that we're having across the nation. I know it's a discussion that we have in our district, is really, are we getting our money's worth, and are we investing our money where it should be? And people are asking the questions, and so we need to be able to show the data to show that we're actually making improvement in student outcomes.